Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, June 10th, 2023. If you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Saturday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Detroit Tigers. We're going to see Ryan Nelson and Matthew Boyd as the projected starters. Now, towards the beginning of the season, the Diamondbacks didn't have the best numbers offensively against left-handed pitchers, but in the last 30 days or so, those numbers have really improved, and in the last month, the Diamondbacks are top 15 in both team OPS and isolated power against southpaws, so I actually like this matchup for him against Matthew Boyd, who has a 5.57 ERA overall, and even worse numbers pitching at Comerica Park with an 8.34 ERA at home through 22 2/3 innings. A lot of earned runs, obviously, but a lot of base hits and walks, 15 walks in those 22 2/3 innings, only 17 strikeouts, so I do worry about that with Boyd. Ryan Nelson's not my favorite starting pitcher to back. He has struggled so far with a 5.4 ERA this season, but the Tigers' bats have not been great against righties. I think it's going to be good enough here, so give me the Arizona Diamondbacks on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the Miami Marlins taking on the Chicago White Sox. Sandy Alcantara and Michael Kopech are your starters. Sandy Alcantara just has not been the same pitcher this season. Now an ERA above 5 at 5.07, even higher ERA away from home at 5.76. On the other side, you got Michael Kopech, who could be pitching his best baseball of his career. In his last 4 starts, at least 9 strikeouts in all 4 of those games. So he's missing those bats. He's not giving up a ton of earned runs. Even though his ERA overall this season at 4.33, it's starting to decrease quite a bit over his last few games. So I think Kopech's good enough here. Sandy's last start against the A's gave up 5 earned runs. So if he's struggling against Oakland, I really can't trust him here. Give me the Chicago White Sox on the money line. Next up, we go to the NL Central as the Cincinnati Reds take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Andrew Abbott and Miles Mikolas are your starters. Andrew Abbott's making his second career start at the Major League level. His first game, his Major League debut, 6 innings, no runs, 6 strikeouts against the Milwaukee Brewers, only 1 base hit allowed. He did walk 4 batters, though, which is a little bit concerning. And I do think when you compare the Milwaukee Brewers to the St. Louis Cardinals, definitely a much tougher matchup for Abbott. The Brewers, we mention all the time, they struggled last year against lefties. They've struggled this year against lefties. Their strikeout numbers are high. Their OPS and isolated power numbers are low. The Cardinals, in the last 30 days, have really improved their numbers, especially in the power department against lefties, where they're top 10 in baseball in isolated power. So I do think Abbott could struggle early on in this game. And Miles Mikolas is in really good form. Now his ERA below 4 at 3.74 on the season. His last start, he gave up a lot of base runners, and that was a little bit concerning. Five innings, 10 base hits allowed. But I still think he's a good pitch-to-contact option for the Cardinals, especially at Busch Stadium. He's been pitching better, like I said, his last 5 starts, 3 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those games. I think he's good enough here. He also pitched against these Reds back on May 25th at 7 innings of shutout baseball. So give me the St. Louis Cardinals on the money line. Next up, it's the Minnesota Twins taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Joe Ryan going for Minnesota, no official starter for the Blue Jays. I think Joe Ryan could pitch well in this game, and obviously he's having a great start to the season, 7-3 with a 2.76 ERA, a sub-1 whip, 80 strikeouts, and 71 2/3 innings. However, I just worry about the run support, and honestly the Twins bullpen a little bit as well. This Twins team has just not been scoring runs consistently. You look back at that Rays series where the Twins got swept, their pitching staff did a pretty good job in that series outside of the first game. But Minnesota scored a combined 3 runs in that series, and some of those games were bullpen games for Tampa Bay, which have had one of the worst bullpens in baseball the last 30 days or so. So, Byron Buxton being out of the lineup certainly hurts this team quite a bit offensively. This team hasn't been great on the road this year as well. Toronto has been playing pretty good baseball. They played really well in that Astros series. They're hitting right-handed pitchers very well, so I think they'll be able to get to Ryan for a few runs in this one, and I think it's going to be enough to win this game in the end. So I expect another low-scoring game and a game that the Blue Jays win in the end. So give me the Toronto Blue Jays on the money line. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Colorado Rockies afternoon game here at Coors Field. We're going to see Ryan Weathers and Kyle Freeland on the mound, pair of lefties. Ryan Weathers has regressed quite a bit after his strong start to the season at the Major League level. Now, in his last 4 games, at least 4 earned runs in 3 of those 4 starts. Good amount of home runs and walks, not really a lot of strikeouts to go with it, and a lot of losses for the Padres in those starts. And although Colorado has not been great against lefties in the last 30 days, I still think they'll be able to get to Weathers in this start. I also don't trust Kyle Freeland in this game, as the Padres have hit lefties very well in the last 30 days, especially in the power department, which is important at Coors Field. Padres are 5th best in baseball in isolated power against lefties, going back in the last 30 days. So sure, a little bit higher strikeout rate, but Kyle Freeland doesn't really miss a ton of bats. This Rockies bullpen has not been very trustworthy as of late, especially in that Giants series where we saw him blow a lot of games, a lot of leads in that series in the late innings. I don't really trust either of these pitching staffs in this one. Give me the over in Colorado, San Diego. Next up, it's the Kansas City Royals taking on the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to see Brady Singer going for Kansas City. No official starter for the Orioles right now. Brady Singer has not been too trustworthy away from Kauffman Stadium. He's got a 6.97 ERA, so I know he's coming off a really good outing against the Colorado Rockies at Kauffman, 5 2/3 innings, no runs, and 7 strikeouts. But it's just tough to trust him in this game against a very good Orioles team, a very good Orioles lineup. And, if this game is close late, I do think the Orioles have a pretty significant advantage in the bullpen. The Royals bullpen has not been too trustworthy this year. So for me, I'm going to take a lean here with the Baltimore Orioles on the money line. We'll see who their starting pitcher is going to be to get some more information for this game. But right now, I'm leaning towards Baltimore. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Bobby Miller and Aaron Nola are your starters. I was really impressed with both of these guys in their last starts. Bobby Miller, 6 innings of shutout baseball, only 1 hit allowed against the Yankees with 7 strikeouts. Aaron Nola, 7 innings of 1-hit baseball, no earned runs, gave up 3 unearned runs on a mistake pitch home run, but 12 strikeouts in that game and an 8-3 Phillies win. So both of these guys in pretty good form going into the start, but the problem is Aaron Nola, we haven't really seen a lot of consistency from his game this year. Before that really good outing against a pretty weak Tigers lineup, he gave 4 earned runs and 5 earned runs to the Mets and the Braves in those last 2 starts. So, I do think the Dodgers provide a much tougher matchup for Nola than the Detroit Tigers do. And, I do think Nola could struggle in this game early on. Bobby Miller, I like the fact that he was keeping the ball on the ground, limiting sharp contact, and starting to miss some bats as well. 7 strikeouts. We know he's got really good velocity on his fastball. He was locating his pitches really well against a very tough Yankees lineup. So I like the Dodgers' chances, and we're getting a really good price with, to me, the better team. I'm going to take Los Angeles on the money line at a solid price. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Kodai Senga and Johan Oviedo are your starters. Kodai Senga's control was a problem in his last start. It's been a problem at certain spots this season where he walked 5 batters in his last game, only lasted 2 2/3 innings against Toronto. 4 total runs in that game, 3 of those were earned, and a home run and a 6-4 Blue Jays win. Senga's got really good strikeout stuff, and we've seen him put together really good outings, but his control has been super inconsistent, so it's tough to know what you're going to get from Senga going into a start. And I think there's some value here with Pittsburgh with Johan Oviedo on the mound, who's in good form. He's been pretty consistent as of late. Look at his last 5 starts, 3 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those ball games. Keeping the ball on the ground, only 2 home runs combined in those last 5 starts. And the Pirates are 3-1 on the money line and run line in his last 4 games. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh at a nice plus money price at PNC Park. If Senga's pitch count goes up early and the Mets have to utilize that bullpen a little bit too much, we know that bullpen struggled in that Braves series, so don't love it here. Give me the Pittsburgh Pirates on the money line. Next up, it's the Oakland A's taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Paul Blackburn and Julio Teheran on the mound in this one. I do expect Teheran to regress as the season continues. His expected numbers aren't the best right now because he doesn't really miss a lot of bats, only 10 strikeouts in his first 17 1/3 innings. We saw him give up 2 home runs in his last start to the Cincinnati Reds in a Brewers loss. So I do expect Oakland to get to him for a few runs. Even though this is not the best Oakland A's lineup, we saw them, be pretty competitive in that series against Pittsburgh offensively, scoring 4 or more runs in each of those games and scoring 11 runs in an 11-2 win and 9 runs in a 9-5 win at the end of that series. So I do think Oakland competes here offensively, but I still think the Brewers will be able to show up on the offensive side of things as well. Paul Blackburn now a 6 ERA in his first 2 starts because of his last game. He went 5 innings, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, and a homer against the Miami Marlins. Only 3 strikeouts in that game. We know Oakland's bullpen has also not been great this season. So give me the over here in Oakland, Milwaukee. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to see Nathan Eovaldi and Taj Bradley on the mound in this one. And Nathan Eovaldi's having a great season. Taj Bradley's also off to a pretty strong start to the year. A 3.6 ERA so far in his first 35 innings at the big league level with 48 strikeouts along the way. Coming off a really good outing against the Red Sox. 5 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, in a 6-2 Rays win. I think Bradley's going to pitch well in this game. I think Eovaldi will pitch pretty well himself, but you look at the games that Eovaldi's had as of late, some pretty weak lineups. The Mariners, the Tigers, the Pirates. He did face the Braves, but he struggled in that one a little bit, gave up 2 home runs in a loss. And then before that, the Oakland A's. So it's really been a weak strength of schedule. This is one of the tougher starts Eovaldi's had this season on the road against a very strong Tampa Bay Rays lineup. So I'm going to lean towards Tampa Bay here on the money line. I think they get the job done. Next up is the Washington Nationals taking on the Atlanta Braves. Mackenzie Gore and Jared Schuster are your starters. I'm going to take the over in this ball game. We know the Nationals have hit lefties pretty well this season. Schuster now a 4.99 ERA. His last start was solid, but it was against the Oakland A's, 5 1/3 innings. He did walk 4 batters and they only had 1 strikeout, which is pretty concerning to me, facing a Nationals team that already does a really good job at limiting those strikeouts. You know, we've seen Mackenzie Gore struggle against teams that hit lefties well. I mean, you look at his last couple of starts, he pitched pretty well against the Phillies, and it was a quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs, but he gave up 9 base hits in that game. That was still a Nationals loss. Before that, back on May 23rd, he struggled against the Padres, another lineup that hits lefties pretty well. 4 2/3 innings, 7 base hits, 3 earned runs, and 2 homers. Before that, on May 17th, another lineup that hits lefties well in the Miami Marlins. 5 1/3 innings, 4 earned runs, a homer in that game, another Nationals loss. So it's tough to trust Gore here on the road against the Atlanta Braves, a team that has just crushed lefties this season and in the last 30 days overall, where Atlanta's number 2 in baseball, in OPS, number 4 in isolated power. Give me the over here in Braves Nationals. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Tristan McKenzie and JP France are your starters. You know, I had my concerns with Tristan McKenzie going into his first start, a season debut this year, because he was struggling a little bit in those rehab outings, but he was excellent in his first start. He went 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, only 1 hit, only 1 walk, no earned runs, and a 2-1 Guardians win. The Astros have certainly improved their numbers against righties as of late. We know towards the beginning of the season, we were fading the Astros quite a bit when they were facing right-handed starters. But right now, you know, look at those numbers. Top 10 in baseball in team OPS and isolated power against righties in the last 30 days. So it's not going to be the easiest spot for McKenzie. But JP France on the other side, he's been a little bit too inconsistent for my money. A 3.44 ERA overall now. He's got really good numbers on the road with a 1.04 ERA. However, he does give up a lot of sharp contact. We've seen him give up at least 1 home run in each of his last 5 starts. He's been able to miss bats here and there, but against this Guardians lineup that does such a good job at limiting strikeouts, I just don't think he's going to have a lot of success in this game. The Astros have lost each of the last 3 starts that JP France has had. I think they lose this one as well. Give me the Cleveland Guardians here on the money line. Next up, it's the Boston Red Sox taking on the New York Yankees. Tanner Houck and Domingo Germán are your starters. You know, Tanner Houck has struggled this year with a 5.46 ERA, more so at Fenway Park, as on the road of 4.56 ERA in 25 2/3 innings. But his strikeout numbers aren't the best on the road, even though he's giving up less sharp contact. I still don't trust him in this game too much. We've seen in his last few games, whether he was pitching at Fenway Park or on the road, 4 earned runs apiece in each of his last 2 starts against the Diamondbacks and the Rays. Not really pitching deep into those games either. And the Red Sox bullpen hasn't been the most trustworthy this year, especially as of late. You look at the New York Yankees, Domingo Germán pitched really well in his last start. I didn't think he was going to, but he had a really good outing against the Los Angeles Dodgers. 6 2/3 innings, 6 strikeouts, really only 1 mistake pitch to J.D. Martinez. I think it was an 0-2 count, and he hung a curveball right down the middle, and Martinez hit a homer. But other than that, he was excellent in that game. The Yankees are 4-1 on the money line in his last 5 starts. He's got better numbers at Yankee Stadium with 3.19 ERA there. Give me the New York Yankees here on the money line. Next up is the Chicago Cubs taking on the San Francisco Giants at Oracle Park. We're going to see Kyle Hendricks going for Chicago. No official starter for the Giants right now. Maybe going with a bullpen game here, which we saw once in Coors Field in the Colorado Rockies series. And the Giants bullpen, you know, to be honest, as of late, has been one of the better bullpens in baseball. In the last 30 days, they have the lowest SIERA and a 2.28 ERA as a team. So, you know, I wouldn't be worried if this was a Giants bullpen game. And Kyle Hendricks, you know, 4 earned runs in his last start on the road against San Diego. He hasn't been the best so far to start his season with a 4.7 ERA, only 12 strikeouts and 15 1/3 innings of work. I think the San Francisco Giants take this one. Give me the Giants on the money line. Next up, we see the final game for Saturday's card in Major League Baseball, the Seattle Mariners and the Los Angeles Angels. Brian Wu and Patrick Sandoval on the mound in this one. The Angels have hit righties very well this season. Brian Wu gave up a lot of sharp line drives in that first start. Although no home runs and although he had 4 strikeouts, I still expect him to struggle in this game. Sandoval pitched against the Mariners last year 3 times, 16 1/3 innings with a 1.1 ERA. He's yet to face him this season, but the Mariners pretty strikeout-heavy team this year. Their numbers in the last 30 days, 22nd in isolated power against left-handed pitchers. Their OPS is right around league average, but still can't trust them here offensively. Even though the Mariners have the advantage in the bullpen, I do think that the starting pitching matchup definitely goes towards Los Angeles and the lineup as well. So give me the Angels here on the money line at home. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in the MLB. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.